Okay, listen. We all gotta stop having our heads explode over Donald Trump saying this is gonna be the 51st state in Canada. Governor Trudeau, all that bullshit. Like, stop. I realize he said it a bunch of times, but stop. Like, Canada's never gonna be the 51st state. Just everybody, relax. Don't think about it, okay? Never gonna happen. I'll tell you one very, very good reason it's never gonna happen. Nobody in the Republican Party in the United States would allow it. Hey, Donald Trump says so many things just to piss people off that he doesn't like, okay? Not sure who he's mad at in Greenland, but, whatever. But in Canada, he's no fan of the Prime Minister Trudeau. He's just not a fan. Doesn't like the guy. So he's going to say all kinds of shit that's going to blow Trudeau's head off, all right? And blow everybody else's head off. And we got other people commenting now. So look, just understand this about U.S. politics. Just imagine Canada was the 51st state. It's never going to happen, but just pretend. Okay, you should know this. That's the most electoral college votes for a president. There's 42 million people here. We'd have the most electoral college votes to elect a president. And in those races, it's winner take all. And in Canada, that would be a solid. There's only two parties in the U.S., remember? There's no more of this NDP, Bloc Québécois. That all goes out the window. Doesn't exist anymore. It's one state, right? One state, not all these provinces. Just one state. So if that was one state, they'd have the most electoral college votes. So whoever won Canada would become president, effectively. And that will always be the Democrats, because that's the way Canadians vote. Sure, Alberta, Saskatchewan, a little bit conservative. But yeah, no, it would be absolutely, because there's only two parties, not all these other parties we have that split up votes. And every single political strategist in the United States understands this. No Republican wants this. Never going to happen. It's just designed to make people's heads explode in Canada. That's all it does. It's just taking the piss out of the Prime Minister from Trump. Come on. It ain't going to happen. But the tariffs are, in all likelihood, very real. Maybe not exactly the way it gets talked about. Maybe not exactly for as long as maybe not. Like, there's all kinds of details for this, right? This was just an announcement. Trump just says, I'm going to do this. No details at all. So, are tariffs serious? Yes, tariffs are bad for Canada. But it's really important to understand how they actually work. Some people think tariffs are a tax in Canada on Canadian goods. Like, if we want to ship it over the border, ship goods over the border, ship anything over the border, Canadians, government of Canada's got to pay a tariff to get it in. Not so. That is not it at all. We ship goods over the border, whether it's raw materials like potash, aluminum, whatever, oil, send hundreds of millions of dollars of oil every day across 100 million a day. Maybe we send. It's 34 billion in taxes. It's a huge thing. Okay. So the idea is we don't pay anything. No one in Canada pays anything. Whoever buys the product in the United States, in other words, Americans and American companies, they have to pay. Yes, it's not Canadians at all. It's bad for Canada because it disrupts trade. It's terrible, but we don't pay. The Americans pay. So what does that mean? It means that if you've got a car part, you're Ford, and you're building Fords in the United States, but you got a bunch of parts coming from Canada that they're making them in Canada, then you got to say, whoa, I got to pay 25% tax. I got to pay. Ford, USA got to pay to bring that part in. Maybe I better find some place in the US I can make that part, and then I won't have to pay. That's the effect. But that doesn't work for all the rest of the stuff. That doesn't work for the oil, the jillions of dollars worth of oil that goes across the border every day in pipelines. Doesn't work for aluminum. Like, more than half the aluminum in the United States comes from Quebec. Like, how are you going to have beer cans? No more Coors Light. No more nothing. How electricity comes from Quebec and some from Ontario. I mean, potash from Saskatchewan goes into the United States, and Americans make it into fertilizer. Now, we end up paying on some of that stuff because if we buy a Coors Light, Anyway, that part's getting complicated, but hear me out. It's not Canadians will pay. It's people in the United States will pay. And who wants to pay 25% extra on your energy? Because again, it's an American company distributing power, distributing electricity in the U.S., receiving it from Quebec, will have to increase they'll have to pay the tax. So they'll have to increase the price to their customers in the United States for electricity. Same for aluminum. The price of a beer can has to go up because they're making it there. They're buying the aluminum from Canada. Has to go up. We went through this before. There were tariffs under the old Trump regime on aluminum. Okay. So how's it going to work? It's designed to force American manufacturers to not buy parts from any place else, to not buy finished products, like not buy cars from anywhere else, and to do it all inside the States. It's a protectionist measure to increase the amount of stuff that's made in the United States. That's why Mexico's got far more at risk than Canada does. But still, how are you going to work that out with the electricity and the oil and the natural gas? And you're just making Americans pay more. So it actually doesn't make much sense, but it's not us who pay. However, our industry will be disrupted because American manufacturers who need parts or need product from Canada will say, well, maybe we got to find another source for it. We got to find a source within the United States. So that shuts down Canadian jobs. So it's a terrible thing for Canada. It is absolutely terrible for Canada, but it's not exactly the way we think it's terrible. We're not paying anything to do it. We're just losing jobs. So that's the concept of tariffs. Is it going to stick? We'll see.